Can everybody hear me? Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Okay. Thanks, Melissa. Okay, it's 5:02. I am going to call the meeting to order. I would ask everyone to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For right now, we will forego the chair report. Mike will be joining us shortly. He is doing preparations for the impending storm. So we will go right into special recognition. Scott, would you like to take over from here?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Zen. And it's my pleasure to turn it over to Brian Greenleaf, who is going to let us know who we are recognizing this month.
Yep. So, hey everybody, how you doing tonight? We have with us a representative from the custodians group, Ray Clark. So I want to recognize him for being here as well. Really, since you kind of know this already, but we haven't really talked about it as a board. Our custodians have been doing so much since March. Their whole kind of work schedule has had to adapt and change to help keep our schools safe during the public health crisis that's ongoing. And their work is really a key part of our mitigation strategies. And so wanted to take the time today to recognize them. And they really didn't get a break at all. Since March, they have been in the building every single day. When everybody else was remoting in from home, they were at the building cleaning, doing projects, getting ahead, so that over the summer, the work that they normally do could really be focused more on getting prepared to bring students back to school, adjust to new cleaning procedures, and carry those forward into the new school year. And I know it's been an adjustment for them. It's been really like it's been for everybody else. It's been really stressful for this group too. I'm through at the high school. They have the yeoman's task of sanitizing desk shields every day, which is for 5 or 6 guys a 2-hour task every single day that they have to get in, plus go through and clean all the spaces within the school. And certainly that's not something that was asked of them in the past. So I just want to say kudos to all the staff. We have Ray here representing the group. He's the union president. He's also the lead custodian at the high school. Brian Chikoski is the lead custodian at the middle school. Dale Wilson, as you all know, at Windermere. Neil Ducharme over at Center, and Jeff Chiavetti up at Crystal Lake. I want to recognize them and their crews for all their assistance. I also want to thank, Barbara Kelleher, who many of you probably know. She's our admin assistant in the facilities group, behind the scenes, working with these guys as well, and a great aid to Rebecca and myself. So I just want to give a nice shout out to them. Ray, I don't know if you want to say anything, but I just want to thank you and your team for your service.
Hi, Brian, and hello, everybody. I thank you very much for the recognition. We definitely appreciate it as a group. My guys have been working very hard, as well as everybody else in the system. So, but I appreciate the recognition. We'll continue to do the job that we're here to do, right? So, thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thanks, Ray.
And I just wanted to mention a lot of times when we have big snowstorms, a lot of us at different times have the luxury of the storm happens and we're home and we're kind of all, sitting around the television or playing cards or doing whatever it is we do, or playing in the snow with our kids. Well, when the snow stops, the custodians and the maintenance crew, they're just working around the clock to try to get everything all cleaned up. So when they see snowstorms coming, it's not like, hey, we're going to have a day off. It's called, we're working double, triple time to make sure that everything is cleaned up, so that on Friday, as you know, when you get a big storm, if this storm comes and we get 18 inches, it takes a long time to clean up 18 inches of snow. And if they're not on top of it, all of a sudden we'll have to have a delay or possibly close on a Friday also. So when you see them double timing it, just know that they're trying to get the schools open because they know how important it is. So I just wanted to say, Ray, I know a lot of work's coming up your way, and thanks to all you and the guys and the gals that are really helping us out. So thank you so much.
Scott, may I say something?
Absolutely, Marcia.
Not to just single Ray out, but since he's the one that was there tonight, of course, I worked at Windermere all year, and I would see those guys in the summer dying of heat, moving furniture out of every single room. And as you say, here comes the snowstorms, shoveling roofs and everything. And those guys just work so hard. And I'm really glad that we're honoring them, because they certainly are appreciated. Thank you, Ray and Dale and the whole team, Neil, everyone.
I'll chime in one more time and say thank you very much, Scott and Marcia. I miss the days over at Windermere still. But I appreciate everybody recognizing the hard work that we put in. And like I said before, it's sometimes a thankless job, but we're very happy to do our part and keep things going.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Ray. We appreciate everything that you're doing for us. Keep up the great work. Okay, so now we'll move on to Citizens and Staff Forum. Do we have anything? Anyone?
Nobody signed up today.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jen. Consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone would like to remove? Hearing none, we will move the consent agenda forward as written. Reports, special reports. We have a presentation on social educational learning specialist for board certified behavior analyst position. Dr. Laporte, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So we did a presentation. Actually, it was Solomon and Hope DeBoer, who you're going to meet, or you actually probably already have met, for the curriculum committee. And we're going to go through that same presentation, but this is really just an introduction into the two new hires that you all agreed to and supported last year when we started discussing social emotional needs as well as behavior. And those were things that the teachers had requested and had asked for. So we came up with the job descriptions and the overall concept of having a district-wide elementary level BCBA, as well as a social emotional learning specialist. The two of these positions started obviously with Hope being the BCBA and Solomon, who's the social emotional learning expert, as well as a social worker. They've really developed the concept of these two positions, and it's been nothing but positive. It's been exactly what we had envisioned and planned for. And as they go along, it's going to be really hard for you guys to ask questions. But if you can start, kind of just write them down, because we're online. And then at the very end, we'll ask anything. We'll give you time for questions. And I'm just going to introduce them right now. Hope, you can see her. She's Wave Hope, our BCBA. And then Solomon, I don't know if you can turn your camera on. Yep, there's Solomon, our social worker. And take it away.
Solomon, you're going to share your screen?
He's freezing up a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Solomon, can you hear us?
He's still muted. Let me text him. I can share my screen if he's stuck.
Solomon, you might have to get off.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
All right, so we're good.
Yes. You ready to share your screen, Solomon?
All right. Yeah. So we'll get into it.
Okay, we can see
All right.
it.
So my name is Solomon Leonard.
Hi, and I'm Hope DeBoer.
All right. And we are the social emotional learning team. Just to say a few brief words, it's been a privilege just to join the district and meet some of the amazing professionals that you guys have. It's been a learning experience to say the least, and something that we're truly gracious for. We also appreciate the opportunity to share our presentation with you. And before we got able to give an idea of who we are, is when it is easy to remember. But the hope is that you see the influence and the impact that we make in years to come. We are, and we'll also be getting into our roles in the Ellington Public Schools, which you guys are aware of. But we're just going to give you just a little bit of what's been developed thus far and how we continue, or how we will continue to allow this to kind of build and develop into something that is a great resource for the students here in Ellington.
So hi, my name is Hope DeBoer, and I am a board certified behavior analyst. And my role for Ellington Public Schools is busy, but I am there to support your teachers, your students, and their families in the classrooms, providing strategies, technologies, concepts, being collaborative, consulting with them, bringing them together in teams, and giving them a skill set to support their students and families. So there's three main areas that I focus my attention to when I'm in your schools. I look at individual student behavioral concerns. So a teacher can bring forth a specific student with a behavioral concern that I can support and help with, write a plan, model, teach what we might do that could be successful. The next way is that I support teachers with classroom management. So anything pertaining to procedures, expectations, transitions, just basic classroom management and reinforcing all of that within a whole group setting. And then another way that I support schools is actually to support the whole school, right? So like a PBIS model, when the whole school, like Windermere, does their well done tickets. So just understanding those systems and helping teachers implement them if needed, even though they're well developed, it's just another skill set that behavior analysts have. But my main focus as a behavior analyst is usually on figuring out, like, why is this behavior occurring, and what's maintaining it? Why does it continue to occur, and why does it continue to occur under these situations? So I'm always asking myself that question of why. I don't really believe that you just get rid of a behavior. I think that we always have to teach a new replacement behavior. I think that behaviors serve a purpose. They get us something. And so students are not just going to stop doing a behavior because we made a change. We have to teach them what the right thing to do is. We have to teach them a more acceptable and a more efficient and effective way to access what it is that they want. So again, that brings you back to my question of why. And I'm always looking at, what can I teach instead? What can I replace that with? And why is that happening? So why, the word why for me is just truly an important word as a behavior analyst. And I just want to take a minute to share with you my why, right? I think that everyone has to have a personal why. Why are things important to us, and why do we do them? And so this is my son, Ben, and he is 30 years old. You don't really have to do that math. I know that I'm old. But he was born with agenesis of the corpus callosum. And so that impacts Ben in all aspects of his life. It impacts him physically, cognitively, emotionally, mentally. And he is my why. He has had some amazing educators work with him throughout his life. And I want to be like those people. I want to be that person that helps every family and every student, not just someone with a special need, but I just want to impact families. So we've had so much help, Ben and I, that I want to be that person that gives back. And that truly is why I will just continue to learn and grow my craft. I love to learn. I love to learn about all kinds of things, but education is truly just in my heart. And I really just truly want to support all those students and families.
And I am the other half of this dynamic duo. I am Solomon Leonard, the social emotional learning specialist, but my formal training is in social work. I am a licensed master social worker from a very small school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, called Millersville University, and I loved it. And I credit them with a lot of my understanding of what this profession means to the people around me in every environment that I encounter. One of the things that I do is consult and collaborate with teachers and staff on student concerns, which is, it can manifest itself in a variety of ways. But the main thing as I go through these other points is just the reality of being preparations that teachers have in regards to students and trying to understand behavior so we can not only be sensitive to it, but also affect change as we work with students. Providing counseling and social skills instruction to students through small groups. Amazing. So far, I've met many students who are joys throughout the building, and even some of our silver students who aren't in the building, and just providing smiles to students who haven't been able to get out has been one of the secret joys that I've had so far. And the last piece, providing support to the entire class through running SEL lessons. And that's been interesting. It's been hybrid. It's been in person. Even providing support, even in those moments, have been great because it provides a sense of normalcy and the ability to capture a smile, to capture a moment where everybody's laughing at the same time. Those are the small pieces or connections that allow us all to feel connected. In regards to my why do I do what I do? It's not the older gentleman, but the little gentleman. That is me. And one of the things that allows me to be present every day is knowing and being aware that I bring this student with me to work every day. I bring the little me into every class, into every conversation and situation. If you let me tell it, my dad's best friend, and I lost him at the age of 11. And after losing him, it created a void. And while going through school or my formal education, I felt alone. I felt like nobody seen me. I felt like many couldn't reach me because I was able to produce or present this form of being okay, which was either humor or trying to succeed to a certain level or a certain standard that a teacher may set. And I was able to coast through my education, and I coasted in fragmented state. I coasted in a way that had nothing to do with who I really was or what I was becoming, but in this mask that I would put on every day just to get through the day because I was hurting so bad, nobody could reach me. And when it comes to that student, I'm aware that a lot of our students, for many different reasons, even some of us have gone through school, work, have gone through life fragmented, and we haven't been able to produce the full weight of who we could and are. And when you consider a time like this, who we are truly supposed to be is beyond important because we don't know how much a moment, an interaction, an encounter weighs in a time like this. So when it comes to who we are your SEL specialist. Everything, what's going on, how are you feeling, other side, behavior and these emotions, how do they work together? Seem like they're out of place. It seems like it doesn't fit. But over time, through time, whether it's been with her experience professionally or mine, we've learned that our skill sets go well together. Acknowledging what is already here, there are many pieces that have been assembled in a very pleasing way. We were able to see in our new teacher orientation just how well you guys have been doing in the trend or the upward trend that you guys are already on, which speaks to the administrative team and what goes on in central office. So it's just been a privilege to be a part of that. But when it comes to Hope and I, what do we really bring? And I believe at this point we bring something that is in just getting to know Hope in our spaces and talking about different things that we're doing. She is amazing to say the least. And I just like to be her Robin sometimes, but I know sometimes I gotta step up. But when it comes to things that go well, from this list right here, we see New England, we see Luann's, we see Peanut Butter, we see Pink and Gilligan. A lot of these things, although good alone, another side of what this is saying, it just has a different flair to it. So I'll say something like New England.
Patriots.
And it goes. Or we'll say Luann's.
And Ellington.
Peanut Butter.
And Jelly.
Or even Pink.
And Floyd.
And lastly, for those who know Gilligan.
He had an island.
And he would not be the same without it. And when it comes to us and who we are, our pieces go well together, just like some of these examples right here. And so far, we've been able to see just how impactful Hope's work and my work has been. And we appreciate the trust that you guys have put in us so far.
So one of the things that I think really struck a chord with both Solomon and I on our very first day in the district at our orientation was going through the seeds of civility. And there was one quote in there that we will recognize that similarities exist amongst all people and we will respect our differences. And as a partnership and a team, we strive to just bring forth all of our strengths to support not only each other, but to support all of our students and teachers and other faculty members, as well as all the families of Ellington. And we try to do that with the best of all of our abilities combined. So like this slide says, teamwork makes the dream work. And these are the responsibilities that both Solomon and I share together, that we co-share. And Solomon and I collaborate and communicate daily. If you could see our phones and our text messages and our phone calls to each other, we are in constant communication of who's supporting who, and what did you work on today so that I know how to follow up this afternoon or tomorrow. So as a team, it's our mission to be present in your classrooms, to be in the hallways, to be in the cafeterias, to be everywhere throughout a building. We want to be sort of inconveniently present so that people don't have to ask to find us. We don't want them to have to seek us out and come find us. We want to be there and be visible and be present. And we want to do that each and every day. So we currently are encouraging all of your teachers to just engage in those conversations with us, even the difficult conversations, so that we know how to grow and support and help. We want to cultivate a sense of confidence and build the capacity of all of our teachers.
And the other thing that we've tried our best to do is to help understand that no conversation is too small for Hope or I. It's really something that we've tried to instill in teachers in regards to this open door policy, that we are always available when we can be available. And even when we're not, we'll make time. And if we don't make time, we'll find a way to just pop up on you and have that needed conversation about a student or even just about how you may be feeling. And one of the things that we learned in some of our meetings so far is just some of our teachers are dealing with a lot emotionally, and just feeling the comfortability to share how they're feeling has shown just how they've been able to view us. So it's been great. One of the other responsibilities that we have is this word alignment, an alignment of schools, an alignment of parents, an alignment of the community. And in a lot of ways, we've been working our best to make sure that this word does not become traumatic. One of the things that can be alarming is alignment, or everything seemingly has to be the connected to something that we're doing in building the work in the schools, connecting and making sure the neighbors and the citizens that we encounter understand that this space that we will be sharing will be governed and will be a culture of civility, if you would.
Are you frozen, Solomon?
I just shifted
There we go.
screens, but I'm not sure if it's come up yet.
It's right there. All right. So when we talk about alignment, what does that really mean for our SEL team? We are not striving to create this cookie cutter programming with absolutely everything the same and identical across all of your schools, because that really would not be fair. Schools have their own identity, and we would like to sort of preserve some of that. But what we are trying to do is to organize a systematic framework that includes the tools and curriculum within the district for our SEL programming. And we envision a culture that is sensitive to both your students and staff, allowing for seamless transitions amongst our schools. And we acknowledge not only individual people's individuality, but your school's individualities, but yet we're seeking some sort of equity and availability of programming when it comes to social emotional learning. So if our students are learning a social emotional skill and strategies within our elementary schools, we want that language and the expectations to travel up to your middle school, so that we're building this foundation at the elementary school level, so that the goal is that this then will move up through the grades and carry our students as they move on towards middle school and high school.
And next we have our behavior intervention teams. Although these look different in regards to what behaviors we may be seeing across the different schools, in regards to how we conduct meetings and what that looks like, we've been aligning those processes.
So our goal is to help the teachers identify which students are in need of behavioral supports, define those specific behavioral needs, and then provide strategies and interventions that will positively impact the student performance. And this process is systematic across all 3 elementary schools. So by creating a BIT team process that is consistent and equitable for all students, that is our ultimate goal, so that if a student were to move from one elementary school to another, the process would be very similar. The paperwork would be the same, so it would just be a seamless transition. We've begun to create forms and systematic processes. There is a link, Solomon, I don't know if you're going to click on that, but we outlined some steps of what should happen before you even access our team, right? Have you checked in with your colleagues? Have you taken any data on the student? Have you brought it to the attention of your administrators? So before you even come to your team, have you as a teacher utilized all that you have at your disposal, so that then when you come to us, there's a history and we know we kind of have a starting point. We have baseline information. We, being Solomon and I, have each created a request form. So there's a way for teachers to access our support within all of the schools. So the teacher completes the form, provides it to their administrator and directly to either Solomon or I. Most schools have also identified a point person, such as a school psychologist or another team member, so that there's several people within the school knowing that this teacher is asking for specific support and what kind of support are they asking for. And these forms really are twofold. They provide all that basic information that I was talking about, right? The basic history of the student, the problem, the concern, what specifically are you asking for help with? But the second piece is that It's specific information about the needs of that building. So then Solomon and I can coordinate and communicate and come back and say, is it bigger than just one student? Is there something in the grade level? Is there something in the school? Is there a processy or a procedure or an expectation that we can then tweak and learn from? And it sort of gives us the chance to analyze things and look at the school as a bigger picture than just one student.
And these forums give us the opportunity to become painfully efficient in regards to addressing a behavior or emotional concern. And that's very important because most of the individuals in the meetings are intra-crisis situations or even just consultation at different times during the day.
So we have also created and sort of morphed forms from the actual behavior intervention teams. There's an agenda, so it outlines what are the steps we're going to take. Then there's a referral form, which is that history form for the teacher. What can you tell us about the behavior in the student or the classroom action that you're asking for? And then the action plan is, what are we actually going to do about it? What is the team recommending? And how are we going to monitor it? And how are we taking data? Because as a behavior analyst, I live and breathe by the data. The data is how I measure anything. It's how I tell, how we see growth, right? Did we really enact a change somewhere? Did what we suggest have any impact at all? So that action plan includes how are we taking the data? How often are we taking the data? Who's taking the data? And how is it going to be reported out? And also, who's going to follow up with you? We don't want you to just come to a meeting and then 6 weeks later come back to another meeting. Someone is following up with you on a weekly basis and helping that teacher and supporting that classroom.
And I think one of the interesting things with our connection is she's looking for something and I'm looking for something. Hope is overtly looking for data. What is the data? I'm looking for the root of the problem. The root will help explain the data. And if we can explain the data, we can possibly heal a student who's been hurting for a long time.
So I'm going to leave you with two quotes from Dave Ramsey. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I'm a huge Dave Ramsey fan and I'm slowly converting Solomon. But our goal for the students, staff, and families of Ellington is really to increase awareness, to increase positive interactions, and to increase just global acceptance. So our plan is really to have a goal. It is a dream, but we have a goal and we will accomplish it for you. Thank you.
Solomon, don't take it off. Leave it
Right,
up.
and as we're working towards it, we hope that you... Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. We added 2 slides. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Finish, you can finish.
No worries.
It's up.
The last part is just that we're aware, like I'm sure you guys are, that we're not planting trees. But as the Seeds of Civility says, we're planting seeds that we hope line the behaviors and the encounters that all the students have for years and years to come, so they can become quality members of the Ellington community and impact the world in many different ways. And as Hope said, we appreciate the time and we thank you once again. Next piece, I just hit.
Just keep going.
The forward arrow, but it's not.
You're muted, Christy.
Okay, sorry, Solomon, it might not come up. I was just, we just added the 2 pages from the PDAC that had the vision of what the 2 of you, your positions would look like. And it was just a reminder of the work that the board did last year with us, as well as all the work that the teachers did in creating what you are currently involved in and how it's evolving your positions. And one of the things that really is emphasized in this PD tonight that you're talking about is the fact that we've always had behavior intervention team meetings, but we've never had what the teachers were looking for, and that was for the two of you in these positions to actually go into the classrooms, follow up, role model. This is all about working together and creating more efficacy in the classroom and more supports for the students. And exactly what I believe the teachers envisioned and we're talking about is that this actually came to fruition. This is exactly what we needed and what is happening. So if you're looking at the screen right now, you see the BCBA non-negotiables. You guys, the first couple of weeks, you sat back, you got involved with the teachers, you went into classrooms, you met the students. Hope, I know you were in a classroom for 2 days in a row working with a specific student who was new to the district. Solomon, you were right behind her in a different classroom doing something else. Both of you have been offered, invited to home visits and have taken us up on that, and we certainly appreciate that. You're working with students with, that aren't even on the SRBI field yet. They're not in tier 2, they're not in tier 3. We're just going into classrooms and supporting and helping teachers, developing the protocols, going into classrooms, teachers feeling comfortable with you, not evaluating, I know there are teachers who have asked you to come in and do SEL lessons. You guys are all like right now, you've come so far in 4 months. We're looking at SEL programming and talking to teachers and seeing what they feel would be the best way to go about it. You're working with administrators. All the things, again, I'm going to keep pointing back to that. The screen is what we wanted and what you've been able to offer in a short few months. So we couldn't be happier, and we certainly have developed and grown from your expertise. So thank you. Brian, I know you're out there. Hendrickson, is there anything you wanted to add?
Sure. Yeah, no, just thank you, Solomon and Hope. You've done an outstanding job. And just to point out, from the January PDAC meeting last year, I facilitated that with Christy, and it was a group of teachers. I think we had about 15, 16 teachers, a couple of administrators, and we were talking about what are the non-negotiables in their words. So that's directly from the teacher's perspective, unfiltered, and Solomon and Hope have delivered on that. It's really powerful to see that come to fruition. So thank everybody for your support in those positions. It is not, and just to point out, it's not just it's not a special education initiative. It's a everyone initiative, regular ed, special ed, everybody working together as a team. And again, Solomon and Hope went through this presentation at the curriculum committee. We know students, if they're not present and they're not able to discuss and talk about their feelings, emotions, it's going to be very difficult to access the curriculum. So again, great job, great teamwork, everybody working together, outstanding.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Christy, thank you so much. Solomon and Hope, I want to say that your presentation was outstanding. I feel that you're moving us in the right direction. Your hearts are in the right place. There's nothing more important to us than passionate people. So we appreciate your time and due diligence here. We will open it up to questions. Miriam, I know you've had your hand raised, so why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Jen, I think Miriam's hand was raised by mistake.
Oh, okay. I will open it up to other board members. Are there questions? I have a couple questions, but I'll open it up to board members first.
I don't have a question, but I do just want to make a statement, and thank you very much, Hope and Solomon, for your presentation. It was nice to see an idea come to fruition, and so successfully from what I can see. So I appreciate you guys and all the hard work that you've put in.
Thank you.
Anyone else? One of the questions that I had for you was you had spoken about the alignment for the SEL team. And I'm wondering, how are we communicating these strategies? You had mentioned you want to communicate strategies up to the middle school and high school so that it flows. As we're starting this program fresh with the two of you, how will we be communicating those strategies up to the middle schools?
There's a couple little things that we've started already, and one is that we do a Friday morning email that we do combined with all the school psychologists that go out, and it's now I put in a little behavior tip or a classroom management tip. Someone else will put in like a health and safety tip, but they go out, and so those are going out. We just started sending those up to the middle school and high school. They started out at the elementary school level, but I think our goal is that programming for those students, once we teach those lessons, those skills, we'll have to find a way to bring it up there, but we're building those foundational skills right now so that we can bring it up.
Yeah. One of the things that will happen organically in regards to who we're dealing with, considering we're on the elementary level, it's not saying that we're going to go directly into the high school or the middle school at this moment, but the students that we work with will at some point be in the middle school and so on to high school. And it was Hope alluded to that says that this is the context for our conversation. And if we have a context for our conversation, we can refer and visit principles that were developed K through 2, that went on 3 through 6, and even the more into the middle school, into the high school. So these are just building blocks that we'll be providing the students with, that if there is a problem, a situation, if they're closed off or they feel like they have nobody, we have a context for a conversation that a student can have with a counselor.
Also, one of the things that, just so you know, I'm not stealing any of them from the elementary level. However, I have requested some supports from both of them for middle and high school. So for example, when we were doing the signs of suicide at the high school in the fall, I asked Solomon to go up there and support any overflow of students who might need somebody to talk to after the lessons, because we have to gather psychologists, social workers, everybody's all hands on deck during that. So Solomon got to meet all of the counselors at the high school and also was able to go to the middle school. So I'm looking to get both Hope not to work at either one of those schools, but to get a bird's eye view to see what comes next. So while the foundation's being built at the elementary school and we're looking into the social emotional learning programs such as Ruler, which we're looking at, that will build from the elementary up. So when we talk about moving from what we have created in the elementary school, those kids will be prepared, move to the middle school, and hopefully keep those same programs in line. Obviously, they all grow. Like we do SOS at the middle is a little different than SOS at the high school, and we do a lower level at the elementary school, Gizmo. So now Solomon and Hope both have an idea of what that looks like at the secondary level. When they go to do Gizmo in January, February, the idea is already there. So it's not going to be a separate entity of just, oh, this is just elementary level stuff we're working. It will grow. We've got to give it a couple of years.
Excellent. I will open it one more time. I'm sorry, go ahead. Who's that?
I'm sorry, Jen, I was just going to say on the alignment piece, just to let you know, another strategy that we're using is Hope and Solomon, although they're focused at the elementary, we're inviting them into the middle school and high school PDAC teams just to make introductions or, offer their assistance and collaboration, just to keep those lines of communication open. So that is very important to us. And we're looking to kind of systematize a little bit on the options that are available and keep the lines of communication open.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian. Anyone else have any other questions? Mr. Picaro has raised his hand. Go ahead, Mr. Picaro.
Thanks, Jen. And hi, everyone. I apologize for being late. And Jen, thank you for leading the meeting. Please continue. You're doing a great job. Hope and Solomon, loved listening to your presentation. Echo Jen's comments with the passion for the work that you do. If I may, push and challenge you a little bit in asking you this question and connect the dots with some of our other agenda items tonight. Again, I want to emphasize the work you're doing and the criticality and the importance of it. But the world we live in today, there's a great focus on diversity and inclusion, and we've obviously put forth an agenda item tonight that talks about our legislative platform, which supports that. And Scott has done a lot of work in putting that together through some of the organizations he's with, and he's going to be sharing more with the board and looking for their support tonight. From what I've read, from what I've heard and learned, BCBAs can play a critical role in moving forward on addressing diversity and inclusion. What do you think about that, and how do you see your role in our school district help to address diversity and inclusion? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just went to a seminar last week. I belong to a cohort of BCBAs within the state of Connecticut, and we meet virtually every other week. And this was the topic of our discussion, and how to support any programming within our schools relating to diversity and equity. And I think it's a hot topic. I think it's up and coming for the BCBA world to recognize it. So what we did as a group, I think there was 9 of us in the group. We actually went back through some research articles to sort of familiarize ourselves with the history of the BCBA and how can that help us support our students and our schools. So I think that teaming up with Solomon, I would be able to, if he takes sort of the counseling approach, right? He has that language that I don't have, right? My brain doesn't work like that. My brain thinks analytically and behaviorally. But I think I would be able to add to those discussions by sort of giving some strategies and ideas and suggestions to sort of, once he gets the conversation rolling, what can we physically do in the classroom, right? If he's going to do the counseling, talking piece, what can I put in place physically in your classroom that's going to support those discussions? What activities can we do? What lessons can we do to then follow up and embed those even firmer into our foundations?
Thank you.
Solomon, did you want to say anything?
In addition to what Hope is already doing on our own, we're also a part of I think it's called a Equity Council, which allows us to engage with other professionals in the state on topics that you alluded to in regards to diversity. And it sharpens us and gives us the ability to not only deal with those situations, but teach others as these things come up organically in the environments we're in.
So they are both a part of the equity leadership team through CREC. We joined in the fall, and there are 6 different sessions that they've been attending. We've also, again, brought Solomon into some of our more delicate situations that deals with equity and equality across the district, and as well as Hope. So they've also supported some of that and kind of got a firsthand look of Ellington, what we need, doing a little checklist, and then also the purpose of being part of this CREC equity team is to enable us to understand more deeply the needs of the diverse population that we have in Ellington, as well as continue to promote and value all of our differences and program successfully for all students.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy, for all the work you're doing as well. Back to you through the vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. With that, if there are no other questions, we will move on to the next item. Okay. The next special report is on the Italy-Greece trip for the spring of 2021. Ms. Scarborough and Mr. Guidry.
Good evening, everybody. It's always good to see you. Actually, the first thing I want to do is introduce one of our amazing world language teachers, Melissa Scarborough. So I don't see you on here right now, Melissa.
I am here. Don't worry. You just can't see me.
Right, that's great. So Melissa she's a French teacher, which is wonderful. But even more interesting to me is Melissa's the teacher who proposed and created our Arabic curriculum last year. So she's also proposed an Arabic 2 curriculum this year. She is a dynamo. She is full of initiative. Melissa always has great thoughts, great questions, super creative, and just this barely bottled living human energy teacher. And we are really excited to have her. And she is going to walk us through the memo that she and I put together.
All right. So thank you guys. So in like late 2019, we came to the board to propose taking a bunch of kids to Italy and Greece that we were really excited to do after the success of the Paris and Madrid trip. And things have been going really, really well for the most part until we obviously have this pandemic that is sort of complicating things. So I've been in contact with Explorica, the State Department, and as many stakeholders as is humanly possible to fit into our days about how things are going and what this is looking like. And from that, I decided to put together a survey to get a sense of where parents are at and where they're comfortable with. And with all of this kind of coming together, it doesn't quite look like we're going to be able to go in April as we had initially planned. We were supposed to take off the Wednesday before April vacation as we were approved to do so, which would be April 7th of 2021. So, and that has a lot to do with the fact that Italy is not reopening as quickly as the State Department had initially told me in September. And like they're doing inter-country travel in Europe, but they're not allowing anyone outside of the Schengen space outside of Europe in. And they don't appear to be going to do that anytime soon. And even if they did, that would cause serious hiccups, including the potential need to quarantine in Italy before we can go out and do anything, which is just not feasible. So upon taking all this into consideration and taking the parents' views into it, we would like to propose to postpone the trip 1 calendar year from the Wednesday before what would be April vacation as soon as that's decided on the 2021-2022 calendar. And take off at that time. So from that, just to kind of potentially ease any concerns or questions that might come up about it, Explorica has already promised in writing there will be absolutely no change to the cost. Even if the cost goes up when they eventually start doing the buying of the tickets and the things of that nature, Explorica is saying that they will keep the cost at the exact same thing. So parents who are currently signed up will have absolutely no costs added to what they're doing. In fact, just because it's stretching it out over another year, it will actually shrink their monthly payments until the same cost is paid for at the end of that. But obviously, if parents are still not feeling comfortable, we want to give them the option to cancel and to do that as well. Explorica has a lot of things going on, and I've been able to negotiate with them to get even more stuff out of it in order to kind of support our parents, because I know that this was a massive, massive endeavor for them as much as it was for any of us. So what I have been able to get from Explorica is that for parents who are, especially parents of our seniors, because we have a couple that are still signed up, they can transfer the entire trip to a younger sibling if they happen to have one that will be at the high school at that time. And if that's not something that is like possible because there's no younger sibling, or that younger sibling is really, really young, then Explorica has given us the option too, if we opt to kind of negotiate it and work through it, which I would need some additional logistical support from our central office friends, to even take that student spot in order to switch out somebody from a different family into that. And the purpose of me mentioning this is this would completely take off any of the cancellation fees. Explorica has these two travel insurance plans that we're covered under, and we've gotten even more generous stuff for because we planned so far in advance, and because there's obviously no way to predict something this nutty. So, but there obviously is still a cost to cancel. So a lot of these ideas kind of come to help mitigate the cost of canceling, because that's money that you don't get back. And we would like to offer these parents in order to, again, like, it's, I think $79 if they got the travel protection plus plan. And then if they got the other plan and or didn't get a plan, I was able to get still support that way, where it would be a cancellation cost and or just like a lack of refunds, depending on how much money has been put into the account, of no more than $399. But that's still a pretty penny, which is part of why we mentioned the switch. But there's also the potential for families who have already canceled to use that money as a credit to anything else, like a voucher sort of system through Explorica, or again, with some finagling, we can kind of switch it over. So Explorica has given us a bunch of options in order to save, especially our senior parents, that kind of cancellation cost, because obviously as seniors, it's not in the stars, and it's not anything that is their fault. But that is sort of the situation that we're looking at. I hope that was remotely cohesive. And if you have any questions, I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa and John. I will open it up for questioning. Liz?
Yeah, I was just wondering how many seniors are involved in this trip?
At this point, let me pull it up. I think there's only like 5 that are still here. There are some that canceled prior to this moment in all the kind of negotiations that I was able to get, but I can retroactively apply all of this to them as well, which I intend to kind of message them about pending approval. But let me just double check my roster right here. We've got... Seven. So sorry, 7 are still remaining.
So you
out
can
of like 45. That's 7 out of 45. Sorry.
So you can retroactively get the pay for the insurance for the trip. Is that what you're saying? So that they only lose the insurance fee?
If they, yeah. So if they've already canceled, what I can do is work with Explorica to, as long as we have someone to take the place, like another student to take up the place of this other student, what I can do is pull back the money that they essentially didn't get back as a fee for canceling. And then they can get that back because another student is kind of taking that place. So like the parent that needs to cancel, who has a senior, is able to cancel. And the other student is not incurring any additional costs. It gets around the policy is what the agent was helping me with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, you had a question?
Yes. Do you anticipate being able to fill all the spots? And if not, will that impact the students who will be going?
So even this year, I have been getting emails from students who are interested in going, but we cut off, like we capped the entrance into it in April of last year. So I think there's still interest, and I've been promised that if we reopen the rosters in order to switch out the students and to do that, like anyone that is not already within a family, because that's like super easy. That takes like 2 seconds if it's from sibling to sibling. But if we open the rosters back up to like all incoming freshmen, for example, then like it's wholly possible. Like we have 40-something students that are still signed up, and most of them are, I mean, they're just all spread across the grades, and there is some interest still. I'm sorry if that was not beautifully clear, but I'm pretty confident.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Mr. Picaro, you've raised your hand.
Thanks, Jen. Through the vice chair. So thank you for the presentation. Just more of a technical question, maybe for Mr. Greenleaf or Dr. Nickel. Do we offer or provide international travel insurance through our carrier for our students? and their proctors?
Yes, we've had the one trip for what was it, Spain and France that happened 2 years ago. We did provide that insurance through Kerma, but it was actually in addition to what was available through Explorica as well. So it was kind of double duty on the insurance for the families.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. That's it, Jen. Thank you.
Sure. If there's no other questions, I will thank Mr. Guidry and Melissa. And I do, on a side note, Melissa, have to say, loved your dancing in the senior video for graduation last year. I see it behind you. I remember it well. Well done. So we appreciate everything that you're doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Moving on, regular board meeting committee reports, communications. Jen Mullen.
Okay. I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to review the legislative letter or not that was emailed out. We went through this week at the meeting and hoping to put it to a vote tonight. It looks like, as I read through it, I think Scott made some of the changes that we had requested. Scott, do you want to give a brief overview as far as what it entails, and then we can bring it to the board for a vote?
Yes, thank you, Jen. And I'll be brief and open it up for any questions people may have. I think this is something that the Ellington Public Schools, the Board of Education, should be very proud of. This correct Teacher of Color Residency Program, TRP, is off to a great start. And Ellington is one of 3 other school districts, which includes CREC, but Bristol and Southington, that actually have residents currently. We're early adopters in the program this year. We have a Teacher of Color resident over at that you approved at Windermere School, and that is paid for through a grant. And the legislation here and the recommendation to the state is essentially to say this is a great program that we feel can have tangible results on an annual basis. Meaning right now there's approximately 15 teachers placed in the program throughout those districts I mentioned, from CREC and Bristol, Southington, Ellington. And those individuals all expected to complete the program and then be fully employed. The goal is to expand this to approximately 60 teachers annually and run it through the other RESCs. So think CREC as a RESC, think ACES, think CES, which is down in Fairfield County, think LEARN, which is down on the shoreline, and also EastCon and EdAdvance are going to be supporting the program. They're a little bit smaller and it's harder for them to do as much, but they want to support the program. The idea here is that the Ellington Board of Education says to the state that we would like you to invest on an annual basis 80% of the cost to run this program and expand it throughout the state. And that we feel that if the state is going to invest in something, there should be a very clear return on investment for accountability of the program. And there is. This isn't just we're going to talk about it, we're going to invest in it. This is we will invest and these teachers will be part of the program. There are already close to 20 other districts throughout the state of Connecticut that have given letters of interest to continue doing to do the program next year. What I think is also special about this year's legislative agenda is that we've been able to work really well. The concept is not from any of the RESCs to BLAC, which is the Black Leaders and Administrators Consortium, which on Saturday I just met with them to present the legislative letter to them, and it's a very similar type of letter, just with some different elements to it. But also CAPS. I know CABE is very much interested in it. The chair, Don Harris, is a proponent of the program. It's never been such an easy sell, right? People like the concept of the program. I think there's going to be a lot of interest to appropriately engage the legislature to move this forward in the coming months. I think in a lot of ways, it also raises Ellington's profile as a leader in diversity from a suburban town. And that is important, right? So we're doing a lot of internal work in the schools around diversity and race, implicit bias, all of these different really challenging concepts. And we have a long way to go. We've done a lot of great work. So that's internal work. This is external work. And if the board wants to approve this letter, one of the things that I will do is once it's approved, I will engage Ellington Equality, which is one of our groups in town that works on equity. I know Ayushman, he was one of the guest panelists at one of their events, right? I will go to them. I will present the letter. I will let them know that we would ask for their support in lobbying this and calling legislators to say this is important. Then secondly, we also have a newly defined ad hoc diversity committee that is done on the town side. And if you are all very much aware, Melissa Haberin, our Director of Special Services, she is the liaison from the school district to support that. Just to give you another idea, Scott Rayola, one of our counselors, he's also a resident. He's on that committee. And as you all know, retired Principal Trudy Roberts, who's a Ellington resident, she is now the chair of the committee. And so one of the things that I've requested is that once this is complete, to go actually over to that committee and to present this legislative platform and ask for their support to go out and make the calls to legislators and say this is something that we support. And you can see 3 Ellington groups supporting legislation to value the statewide expansion of a teacher of color program and say to the State Department of Education that this is really important for you to invest in. If you also notice on the letter, it's really important to note that I, with CREC, will be also going to some various giving foundations, possibly the Graustein Foundation. We may try to get a meeting with Nellie Mae. We're going to try to tap the Hartford Foundation of Giving to say that we want them to also, endorse the program and fund it some of the $900,000 to $1 million for next year also. This should be a collaborative effort. The state, the local taxpayers, and private organizations should all have skin in the game to move this initiative forward. So it's something that's very exciting. I think it reflects well on Ellington. It's very complicated to get to this point, to write a letter that all of these different groups feel comfortable with. When you're mentioning other groups' names, they certainly, the wording is very challenging to get to. I will also say that our commissioner, Miguel Cardona, is in support of this, is aware of our efforts, aware of Ellington's efforts specifically, and also Black's efforts. And they're working on their legislative priorities right now also. So a lot of hands in the pot, and I know I'm very excited about the work, and I'll certainly entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Scott. Mike, I believe you had your hand raised first. Go ahead.
Is it Picaro or Dr. Young?
My apologies, Mr. Picaro.
Oh, okay, sure. Thanks, Jen, through the vice chair. So, Scott, thank you. I support this. We've talked about it. I do have a couple of questions before I feel comfortable voting on it, just to make sure I have it clear. Can you please expand on the role of EastCon and what was it, EDA, if I recall the memo correctly? What you put in your recommendations that they will support this. I want to know specifically how, monetarily, programmatically, and so forth. And then you mentioned quite a bit of funding already in your recommendations. What you there want to be clear? Will the residency program that you're proposing we establish in Ellington, again, which I supported and what you want to expand upon, will that be subsidized with funding from these existing and then potential donors? Thank you, Scott.
Yes, great questions, Mike. So EdAdvance and EastCon are smaller organizations that smaller RESCs that want to be part of the program. They're not big enough with enough capacity to run their own sites. All of the RESCs have hired former superintendent of schools and a good friend of mine, Dave Irwin. So he was a superintendent in Berlin and superintendent in Avon and Montville. He's been hired by them to do some work on lobbying. So I'm coordinating with him to ensure that all of the RESCs feel that they're being represented in the appropriate way. And so it was important for Ed Advance and EastCon that they were included to say that they were going to be supporting this in the state. Now, how they'll be supporting it in different ways is using some of their staff to be also engaging in some of the teaching and learning, the coursework that different RESC will be providing over 18 months for the residencies. They're also looking at some different ways that they can help support with the funding also. The other answer your other question regarding, we don't have any commitments yet from any of the foundations that we're going to be engaging with. We want to make sure that all the legislative priorities are all kind of set and boards have voted on them and everyone's kind of set before we engage. I'm starting to line up some meetings. What I would say is, in terms of financials for Ellington, so the entire package of this year with our particular teacher has been paid for entirely by the State Department of Education. Just to give you an idea, they had a grant of only $150,000. And, we got about, $50,000 to $60,000 of that grant. So the State Department's behind it. Now, what you will see is, because there are not firm commitments yet from the State Department of Education in terms of funding, you will see in my budget presentation in January, the cost of the program mostly in the choice program account of, around $60,000 that would foot the bill for one resident for next year. We don't expect that we will be spending the entire 60 to 65K out of the choice program on that. We expect that there will be a great deal of subsidy to that, lessening it. But that is one of the commitments of continuing to do the program moving forward.
Thanks, Scott.
Liz, I think you had your hand raised next.
Yeah, I was going to ask Scott if have you contacted Jamie Foster as a state representative? I know she'd be very supportive of this program and probably and help in some way.
We will contact all of the legislators. Right now, we are going to work with some key legislators on the Education Committee. So it's important when you work with legislators to go through the proper channels. Right now on the Education Committee, unless it changes, is State Senator Doug McCrory. He actually works at CREC. Doug represents Windsor, Bloomfield, and Hartford. The other representative right now that I believe that is still the co-chair is State Rep Bobby Sanchez out of New Britain. One of the things we'll do first is set up meetings with some of those representatives on the Education Committee, because that's where you have to go through first to move it forward. And based off of those conversations, we will then look for some bipartisan support to try to sponsor the bill, right? One of the key strategies always, if you can do it, and it's not something you can always control, is to get bipartisan support with various legislatures that are A, part of the Black and Hispanic Caucus, B, are Democrats, B, are Republicans representing urban, rural, and suburban districts. If you can get a bill sponsored in that way, it has a much better chance of moving through the legislative process, especially because this has money attached to it. I should also let you know we're lobbying the governor and his budget development, because there are line items in the budget for teachers of color recruitment and development. And we are trying to run a parallel process that if the legislation is not successful, it could possibly also be funded through the actual budget of the governor. So to answer your question on, engaging Senator Anwar or engaging State Rep Foster, yes, those will all be different various legislatures that we will eventually along the way be engaging with.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Mike, I'm sorry, Dr. Young, you had your hand raised as well.
Yes, thank you. I just had a quick question. I do know that my colleagues in teacher preparation throughout the state at universities are not necessarily great fans of alternate routes to certification. So I'm wondering if you've engaged with them in any way about this, or, I mean, ideally they would enlist their help, but at the very least, making them aware of the efforts, because in some ways they're probably competing for recruiting these kinds of teachers.
Yes, what I can say is I have, and you're absolutely correct, right? If you think about the history, in the last decade to two, when the Alternative Route to Certification program came, ARC, right? And why did that program come to fruition? Well, people said, hey, there's a lot of talented pool of individuals that may want to do mid-career changes, that are scientists, that could be science teachers, et cetera. And the State Department of Education and the university said in a lot of ways, well, we don't want to water down the preparation programs that we have in the state of Connecticut and certification.
Well, we do have these kinds of things like TCPCG at UConn for exactly that, targeted at mid-career, high needs teachers.
Yes, I'll finish my thought on this in that, I wanted to mention our principal, John Gittery, is a product from the ARC program, which I thought it is pretty cool to mention. But when this program here is just another alternative route to certification that actually has a higher threshold than the current ARC program through the State Department of Ed in terms of preparation. To give you one idea, my good friend Diana Roberge-Wenzel, who's the former commissioner, she's now working at the teacher preparation program, leading that over at St. Joe's. And so I've been in contact with her to talk about, like, if this program is successful and we move it, what role could the universities have that could further support the development of these educators as they move into getting their masters and making some links to those things. So I think she's interested in exploring those things of, how can it be an extension, the universities be an extension to ensure, right, that when we develop these teachers and they go into these towns, that we retain them in Ellington and other districts, right? And that after 5 years, they don't go get another job in another field. They stick with education.
Well, yes, and I think that was the nature of my thinking. I have to be careful on both sides of this, of course, but in a program like the one I run for practicing teachers, the 2 summers program, we could certainly consider holding slots for these students in admissions, saying, for those who wanted to move up the pay scale and get that second master's or even a first master's in education, we could support the program that way, saying we would hold some slots for them, or something along that line, just outside the box, not necessarily cross-endorsing or anything.
Yeah, and also to your point, Dr. Young, it's important to note that during the tenure of Commissioner Wenzel, and there was a charge to increase the teachers of color in the state of Connecticut, and there was work done with universities, and if you really look at the numbers over like a 3-year time frame, it really went from a 7% up to close to a 10%. There was a lot of barriers that were very appropriately removed to tap that talent, and we now have a lot more teachers of color that are employed not only in our urban centers like a Hartford or an East Hartford or those districts, but also it's starting to get a little bit better in our suburbs. The key with this program here is, I think this program that I'm endorsing has a better shot to increase teachers of color in the suburbs. Because what happens is the resident that we have right now comes into Windermere School, and they spend a year doing their student teaching essentially with a master teacher and getting used to Windermere, understanding Ellington, and getting immersed in the culture. And then they're like, I like this place, I want to be here. We hire them the next year, and then that exponentially grows. And then all of a sudden, Ellington becomes a place where a wider pool of talent. Latinos, Blacks, whites from all walks of life want to come to Ellington and teach and bring their diverse experiences, which can only benefit our kids.
Thank you. Miriam, I believe you had your hand raised.
Scott, could you explain the requirements of someone who wants to apply for this program currently? So that we're all clear on what the experiences or educational background of the people that are applying in this program.
Yes, and I apologize, I don't have it all right in front of me, Miriam, but it is aligned with the state requirements and approved by the State Department as the requirements to get in. So the grade point average, the specific requirements on the different testing that has to occur, all of those things that are requirements that at the different universities that the State Department of Education has certified their programs, all those boxes are checked off.
So you're saying that the people who apply have to pass Praxis and all of the others testing requirements and have an educational GPA that is the same as any other alternative route program?
Yes, essentially the same. And just to give you an idea, not everyone that applied to the correct TRP program has gotten in. So they are, not admitting everyone into the cohort because they have not met the standards as set by CREC in the State Department of Education. It's a great question, Miriam. Thank you for asking that.
Any other questions? Going once? Okay, and do we have this as
an action item?
Action item this evening. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items to discuss from communications, Jen?
The only other thing is that we are still discussing a communication plan, and we are still in talks about our next behind the scenes videos. So there'll be more of those to come out, and yeah, that's about it for this month. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Curriculum, Dr. Young.
Yes, thank you. I apologize in advance that you don't have minutes from our December 5th meeting, but it's finals time and I'm a tad behind, as most teachers are at this point, given, let's call it somewhat chaotic semester that we're trying to wrap up. So I want to tell you that you do have an action item that we'll be asking you to vote on this evening with regard to curriculum, and it has a couple of parts. So again, apologies that you don't have this in front of you, but I would like to tell you that, and I'll ask for Mr. Hendrickson's support in this, the curriculum committee reviewed 13 new course proposals from the high school. Now compare that to 11 that we did in 2019 and factor in the fact that we are in a hybrid COVID silver part-time, full-time, in-person, online environment. The fact that we have teachers and students who have proposed and offered 13 new courses, I think speaks to Mr. Guidry and his desire to personalize learning and to the interest that the faculty and the students have in diversifying the kinds of offerings that are there. I won't go into any of these details, but we did review all 13. They include things like Arabic 2, which is a little bit unexpected. Our committee discussed that it appears that nearly everyone who took Arabic 1 was requesting to take Arabic 2. Astronomy, which was unfortunately originally left off our list, but we got briefed on. There are a couple of creative writing courses, and that'll be relevant in just a minute because we're also eliminating a couple courses. And then there were courses that were really quite innovative, like an introduction to cinema studies and a course on military preparedness. So I'll just call those out along with woodworking and visual creative writing. Our committee discussed these and is in favor of moving all 13 forward. And that's the nature of the action item that we'll be voting on later. So if you don't mind, in addition to those 13, our committee also discussed a couple other related issues. One is that there's an old Board of Ed policy. I want to get this right, policy 6146, Chris, that ask for us to offer personal finance as a graduation requirement. And our committee was asked to consider reinstating that requirement for 2025 and beyond. And Jen Zen and Marcia moved, and we approved unanimously that you guys consider reinstating that. And I'm going to pause just a minute to see if Chris or Dr. Hendrickson has any further comment about that part of our proposal.
My only comment is it is actually in front of us tonight as an action item. We did move it through policy on Monday. I'll be reporting on that next. And we discussed it, well, we had discussed it in curriculum and then discussed it again in policy, and everybody who was at curriculum was also at policy. So not everybody, but it was overlapped. So we do have that as an action item tonight.
Thank you. That's a testament to our ability to keep working quickly on these issues, because it was like the next day that our policy took up our recommendation. So I'll let you backfill that when we get to the policy stuff. Mr. Hendrickson, at this point, about the 13 courses or the personal finance, do you have anything to add before I finish my briefing?
No, just want to echo your comments. Great collaboration, teamwork and feedback with the students and the staff all working together at the high school. Very powerful. Just one thing to mention is that the addition of the language options very strongly matches student feedback coming all the way at our elementary students when we've been having focus groups and asking them what should students be able to do when they graduate. Two big themes are speak another language and know how to do math. So you see strong connections with those course offerings. I just want to point that out. And thank you for I heard a Dr. Hendrickson there, Dr. Young. It's just Mr. So just want to make that clear, but I appreciate the acknowledgement, so to speak.
Fair enough. Although JDs, I think, are technically, but let's not go there.
You got it. You're a Juris Doctor, but no doctor. Doctor of other stuff.
And I can't help but notice that Ayushman is either laughing at the requirement of math or echoing the student sentiment that these proposals of these 13 courses and things like Arabic are coming from the students. So did you want to echo that at all, or just nod?
Just nod.
Well, Dr. Young, if I may, Ayushman, go back a year or so, he was in a focus group I did with high school students and talking about the need, like what could we do to be more engaging? And it's happened at the high school. And that's, again, a credit to everybody, Mr. Gidry, counseling staff and the teachers, just kind of working out a process, feedback surveys, et cetera. So, hats off everybody really meeting the expectation of the board set out to have a culture of feedback throughout the district. And it's been exciting to see that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson and Ayushman. I also, to my fellow board members, just want to comment that it is truly amazing to have courses in any kind of language, but Arabic from a little school like Ellington to be now offering Arabic 2 is quite interesting, right? From a guy who sits at university and looks at world language, creating world language teachers. I just hope you, as part of these 13 courses, things like astronomy and military preparedness are just really reaching out to the idea of personalized learning. So I'll get back to my briefing, but thank you for letting me have that aside. As our next component of this, our our committee endorsed the removal of Shakespeare and creative writing as full courses. But before you panic and freak out on me about that, we're assured that elements of reading Shakespeare are in some of these new courses, especially the creative writing and fan fiction courses. And so there was no need for a specific course that was only focused on creative writing or only focused on Shakespeare, but instead these components have sort of been broken up and put into these more interesting and student and faculty generated shorter courses. So I want to bundle that thought with the next thought, which is we also endorsed a motion from the English teachers at the high school to semesterize all of their English courses so that more of these boutique topics that kind of more interestingly address things like Shakespeare and creative writing could be offered, and to help the guidance staff and Mr. Guidry be able to give students all kinds of pathways to kind of assemble blockwise these shorter courses, these semester courses, and not have to also meet year-long requirements. So we did understand that there had to be some program adjustments and sundowning of courses like Shakespeare, but not that that's being removed from the curriculum, but it's being reintegrated and repackaged into these semesterized courses, which is a concept that we also endorsed. And then very quickly, finally, the question of how we get this information out to students and parents so that they're aware of all these new options and new course offerings. And the guidance staff had attended our meeting and said that they were very interested in talking with teachers and promoting these new offerings. And it was even offered that short videos from the proposers of these courses, like the faculty who created the proposals, could kind of share their passion and why they were interested in that, to go along with some of the other video kinds of things that our district and our board have been trying to achieve. So with that, I will invite Mr. Hendrickson or others to comment who were at the meeting, and then I'll turn it back to you, Jen, and say thank you for the chance to report.
I'm all set.
Can I just say, Dr. Young?
I gave it back to Jen, so if she wants to recognize you, she can.
Chris, actually, if you don't,
says that I no longer have the floor, and that's just a point of order.
Chris, if you don't mind, I will recognize Ayushman first as he raised his hand during the presentation. Then I would be more than pleased to have your question next. Ayushman.
All right, so my question was about the English courses. You mentioned that there's a proposal to semesterize those. Does that include the required freshman English and sophomore English, or is that just the other elective English courses?
As I understand it, it's all of those.
Okay, so okay, interesting. All right.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, John is here and he is in the comment. He's happy to expand on that.
Absolutely. Mr. Guidry, go ahead.
Great question, Ayushman. So we definitely would like eventually, it's nothing that we're going to try and do for next year because the whole semesterization process requires real curriculum work. But at some point, we would like to be able to take both freshman and sophomore English and make sure everybody is teaching the same thing semester 1, semester 2, semesterize those so students have more flexibility as they move their schedule around. But that is not for next year, my friend.
Thank you for that clarification.
I think I understand that the point is to give students more flexibility. So say a student wanted to take semester 1, like A block, but then their schedule made it fit in a different block for second semester. Is that sort of, okay, that makes more sense.
Right, we're trying to equip you guys to have the personalized, exciting, engaging experience that you all tell us you want.
Thank you. Chris, your question, please.
I actually didn't have a question. I had a comment,
Beg your
but
pardon.
Mr. Guidry just said what I was going to say, how this is what I feel that this is another step toward true personalized learning for our students, which is what we've been talking about now for years. And that's what we are striving to attain.
Thank you. And thank you for that very informative report, Dr. Young.
There is written minutes coming, I assure you. Mr. Hendrickson got them way in advance, about 10 minutes into our current meeting.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Policy.
Policy, you do have written minutes in your packet, and we met on Monday. Just need to point that out. Our agenda items, the first one, we had a discussion of revised bylaw 9321, time, place, notification of meetings. If you will recall, at our last board meeting, we had a brief discussion about this. The bylaw read that we would meet at 7 o'clock at the Board of Education building. We hadn't been doing that in a while. And I realized that things could be suspended, policies and bylaws could be suspended because of COVID. I personally wasn't comfortable with just suspending a policy or a bylaw when we can change it to make it in keeping with current practice. So we did take a look at this bylaw and we did change it. The language now is a little more, it's not as prescriptive as it was before. And now it reads that we will begin our meetings between 5 and 7 o'clock. And we will meet at a town or Board of Education building. So it allows for various scenarios. It also, you guys will be happy to hear that it does read that the meetings will have a duration of 3 hours because I'm sure you remember, it used to say that in order to pass 10 o'clock, we had to vote on extending the meeting. And since we are meeting at 5, that would make for a 5-hour meeting. Nobody wants that. So we have the language in there that it would be it'll be a 3-hour duration. And if it's going to extend past that, then we will have to take a vote. So, and then also in that bylaw, it still referenced our annual brainstorming meeting that took place on the first Wednesday of September. Those of you who have been on the board forever, like me and Gary and a couple more of you, probably remember those brainstorming meetings, but we haven't held them in several years. So we did remove that from the policy as well. So that's the revision, and that is in front of you tonight as an action item for first read. And then the next bylaw that we took, or the next agenda item, was taking a look at bylaw 9326, minutes and taping. We do not have action regarding this in front of us tonight. We will continue the discussion about this topic in January, but basically we are looking to streamline meeting minutes, making it a little more efficient and a little easier, I guess, to post, but also give people more information and easier access to information and information that is not, well, is basically unadulterated. So the proposal is that the videos, since we are videoing everything these days, will have timestamps on them for agenda topics. So the meeting minutes will basically be the agenda. Obviously, we'll have all of our motions completely written out, as is state law. But beyond that, the agenda items, it'll be expanded somewhat, and then it'll have the timestamp there. So if somebody is interested in a particular agenda item, they can go directly to that point in the video instead of having to sit through the whole video. Not that it's not fun and exciting to do that, but and then also it was suggested that maybe the minutes look more like our bulletins, the bulletins that are given to us before each board meeting, and then also to have links. It was suggested that we have links for supplemental information, the memos that we receive and the PowerPoints that are presented to us within the meeting. So all the information will be there. It'll just be accessed differently. And there was a concern that currently this bylaw reads that any audio or video recording will be held on to for a minimum of 3 months. Some of us felt that 3 months isn't necessarily long enough, especially if you're going back to research a topic or something, and you might want to follow it back more than 3 months. And so we will be taking a look at it. And it does say minimum of 3 months. So we're going to be taking a look at that more. We will be discussing this more. Also, Dr. Nickel wants to run it by the board attorney before we make a final revision to this topic, just to make sure that we're still in keeping with all of the state and federal laws. I don't know if there's any federal laws about it, but okay. And then lastly, we discussed revised policy 6146, graduation requirements. Dr. Young mentioned this in his presentation. It was specifically to include personal finance as a requirement for the class of 2025 and thereafter. And this is a half credit, 1 semester class. It's within cluster 4, which is career and college readiness. Everybody seemed to feel that this was a good thing. We all need personal finance. It's easier for kids to learn how to balance their checkbook, not from their parents. So anyway, so that is the change in that policy. And then also, since we were looking at the policy, it was brought up that the class of 19 requirements are still listed in that policy. We weren't sure whether or not that was necessary. In order to clean up the policy, if we can remove the reference to the class of 19, then we plan to. And then that is also in front of you tonight as an action item to accept this revised policy as presented or amended, depending on what the bottom line was on the class of 19 stuff. So that's it.
Thank you, Chris, for that very informative report. I believe Dr. Nickel has his hand raised.
Yes, to the question on removing the 1920, because it's, we're past that. I consulted with Brian Hendrickson. We felt it important to keep it in there because it's in the recent memory of students that are just graduating and going through that process. And we want to be able to keep it there for at least some historical context if we have questions on the involvement of the credits in the short term, right? So we don't need to know what happened in 14-15 or 12-13, but 19-20, there may be some important reference points that we need to look at when we're discussing things. So we decided we should just keep it.
1920. You mean 2019 and 2019 and 2000?
Right.
Got it. Not 1920.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
1920 would be a long time ago. Back when Gary was in high school.
Wow. Okay. All right. We're moving past that. Thank you. Operations and Finance did not have meetings this month, so we will move to administrative reports unless anybody from those committee, any chair has anything. Liz? No, you're good. Okay, thank you. Administrative reports, superintendent report, discussion and possible action on superintendent goals for 2020, 2021.
Okay.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Zen. And I will be, very brief. We had a great Board of Education workshop where the board unofficially, my understanding, came to consensus on the superintendent goals that were presented. I just tightened those up a little bit and sent them over to you. It's basically the same document. Just a reminder, we're going on really year 3 of us trying to change the process, add layers, more teacher input, more board input, more administrative input through the SIPs, the DIPs, and all the way up to the superintendent goals as last. So I think they're my goals as approved by you, and I feel very comfortable with the goals. I think they're very appropriate. I look forward to working hard to make sure that they're all successfully progress and be held accountable for that. And also in those goals, as you remember, all of the areas that you asked for me to improve upon or continue progress on in last year's evaluation were included in there. So I think I feel good about the process to this date. And so my recommendation, if your consensus still holds at some point in time in this meeting, is to approve those goals as a board, and then we'll move forward.
Thank you, Scott. Chris, did you have your hand raised? No, sorry. Okay, that was left over. Comments from the board? As we discussed at the previous meeting, the measurement portion of that we will continue to work on to kind of flush out the details, but that's more for evaluation than it is goals. Any questions, comments for Scott? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nickel, for that report. Director's reports, Board of Education initial budget 2021-2022 workshop format. Mr. Greenleaf. There you are.
How's it going again? All right, so you do have a memo on this in your packet. As you know, we wanted to do an initial budget workshop on December 21st. Have kind of a couple decisions for you in order to make this, I think, best for you, and so that you get what you want out of it. Again, the goal here is to kind of deepen our understanding of the budget process, and be able to hear from different sources, teachers, administrators, and board members all interacting together to help us with our budget process as we move forward into January. So kind of two things to discuss tonight. Obviously, we'll be going to remote learning next week. We're holding this board meeting here virtually. So, you know, just a decision if the board feels comfortable trying to do it virtually next week on the 21st, or waiting until after the holiday break, where we would be back full in person in school in all likelihood, and may be able to hold something in person in safe proximity to each other, spreading out into multiple areas. So that's kind of step number one, is deciding, do we hold it on the 21st, virtual or in person? And obviously there's some considerations there. The second one would be, second decision is kind of the format and topics that you want to discuss. We laid out three options in there. One would be to focus on the DIP goal of reducing elementary class size, which obviously has a large budget impact. So we could focus on that. Or we could focus just on school-based budgets at the three levels, and kind of how those processes and decisions have gone so far. Or we could do kind of a hybrid of the two. So looking for your feedback. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Brian. I would open it up to the board members. Questions, comments? Liz, your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, I think we should go ahead with the meeting on the 21st. I don't see us changing. I don't think the situation is going to change as soon as we get back from vacation, as far as why we're going virtual. So I would like to get a feel of what people are asking for, or what they feel is important for next year. And then we'd be able to think about it a little longer than if we wait until January.
Thank you. Any other comments? Other board members? Okay, Mike, thank you. I see that. Mike would prefer to go with option 3.
Well, it just seems like that's what I was hearing, that we wanted to hear what the priorities were across all, and not just focus on the elementary. But I do think the biggest budget implication may be this working on class size at the elementary.
Okay, thank you. Miriam?
I'd be in support of doing this next Monday virtually. I too don't think it's going to be any better on January 6th. And then we're 3 weeks behind, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it virtually then.
Thank you. Anyone else with any thoughts? Okay, what about options? Can we hear from board members what you prefer, option 1, 2, or 3? Mike shared his opinion. Dr. Young, anybody else have an opinion on Gary? Go ahead, Gary. Gary wants option 3. Got it, Gary. Liz has her hand raised. Please go ahead, Liz. You're muted still. Still muted, Liz. There we go.
I'm concerned if we go at number 3, we're not focused on that K-6 space and the talented and gifted program. And it is the elementary class size and in the what was a goal for the budget this year. So, but I do understand about, I just would like to maybe have that section added to option 3.
Well, if I may, I would say that
but it doesn't,
strong focus doesn't mean we're not going to discuss an item, correct, gentlemen?
Correct.
Right.
You know, the option 1 kind of gives a breakout of, you know, what the implications of that focus on the elementary class sizes would mean across the levels. Option 3, we can still get that in. It's just going to be a little bit more compacted. It'll be one of the, you know, focuses within the 3, but it will also provide everybody with the opportunity to hear about kind of the budget that's already been put together by the administrators at the other levels. So it kind of gives two worlds of view.
And my understanding would be this is just the first meeting, correct? There's definitely more workshops and additional.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll take, you know, any feedback that we hear from this meeting, and, you know, as an administrative team, we'll be thinking about it. And then, you know, Scott will, you know, kind of synthesize that within the superintendent's budget, which will be presented in later January.
Brian, can I just ask if this is the only time we get staff feedback on the calendar?
Yes, this will
be able to discuss this again with the teachers is what I'm asking.
Yes, you know, so teachers obviously have already given their input into administrators, but this would be the opportunity for the board to interact directly with the teachers throughout the process.
Yeah.
And you'll get that in any one of the options before you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Additional comments, questions? Chris? Chris, you have your hand raised. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I would say option 3, and also I agree with Liz and Miriam regarding the meeting, because I think meeting in person on the 7th actually would be worse, considering it's within 2 weeks of the holidays and the break. I think that would be a less, I think it would be more risky to meet in person at that point than it would be. And I realize it's not even on the table to meet in person on Monday, but I think if we're going to do it, let's just do it, because it'll probably be virtual either way.
Thank you. So it does appear that the consensus would be for option 3 and to move forward with the meeting on Monday.
That's also the day that my final grades are all due at UConn, so I'll be celebrating somehow or moaning one way or the other.
Celebrate after. You can moan absolutely during that. Just celebrate after.
I do just want to confirm that that's a 5 o'clock start time, if I may.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Brian. Discussion and possible action of coordinator of human resources position, Jen Brown.
Hi there. So for your request from last month's meeting, we updated and expanded on the job description for you. We also provided you with the job description of what the executive assistant for the superintendent would look like when the roles are split out. So they were given to you on Friday in your packets. Let us know, let myself, Brian, or Scott know if you have any questions.
I'll open it up to questions at this time. Any questions? No?
Jen,
Yes.
I asked a question already to Jen about the with the educational requirements for both jobs. Okay, and one has to have an associate degree, and the other one has to have a bachelor's degree. Okay, so if people find that, they'll see that, because I think somebody had talked about that earlier too, about what the requirements in education would be for these two people, for these two positions.
Oh, right, because those are not listed, correct?
Yeah, but we're way down at the end of each one of the employment thing. Down at the bottom, it will mention something about an associate degree for one of the positions, and it's a bachelor's degree for the other position. For the HR position, it's a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes.
Anyone else with any questions?
I just want to ask a couple of questions. I know it says a bachelor's degree in human resources, a related field. This alternate qualifications may be found, or alternate qualifications may be found acceptable by the superintendent. I think that changes the qualifications. I think it should be left as human resource or related field. And I also wanted to know if the executive assistant to the superintendent of schools acts as a supervisor to the other secretaries now, or is that new to the job description?
It's not necessarily a supervisor to the other secretaries, but as a leader in the central office capacity, they are, they all do kind of report to the superintendent's office in many different ways and for different tasks. So that is something that I do coordinate currently for different reasons, depending on the different departments.
Okay, so the wording is just changed, or was the wording always that?
The wording was always that, and we can look at fine tuning that a little bit. I mean, it's leadership and supervising it's similar, but it's not a administrative supervisor position where I am, like evaluating people. So that's where I think maybe there's some confusion, but it's supervising in other ways.
Okay.
Jen?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Hi. Jen, has it been established that you would stay in the position you are, or you might go to the HR position, or that's not been discussed?
Has not been discussed, but the HR coordinator position will be posted, and there'll be a thorough process for internal and external candidates to apply for that position.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Miriam.
Yeah,
you have your hand raised, please.
Are we expecting to take action on this today?
Yes.
Yes.
And when would this job be filled?
We kept the wording in the action item the same as last month. Ideally, with the budget process for July 1, however, if funding is available sooner due to, the urgency of the need, then we would be posting and seeking applicants sooner.
But we would be required to put this in the budget. Is that for this year?
If there was money available, yes.
Yeah, and this is something that we would report out to you before making decision. We would show you how we're going to pay for it within the current appropriations, either through grants or through general fund budget.
No, Brian, I'm asking for next year. If we approve this today, does that mean that it will be automatically?
We would carry it forward into next year's budget. I think Scott's mentioned that in the past, that this would be one priority that we'd be committing ourselves to going forward. But it is something that is very important to the administration. It really is something that needs to be done for the district in order for us to function as an administrative team successfully going forward. And so it would be probably our number one priority as we move through the budget process.
Miriam,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel with the budget coming out in January that we could wait to make a decision on this and look at what else is in the budget and make a decision when we see that all the teaching positions are filled, if we can afford to do this. I just don't like doing this a month before the budget. It's almost like circumventing the budget when we're going to be deciding what needs to be done for next year. I hate to do this just a month before we start discussing the budget, the total budget. So that's how I feel about if we're going to do it. I think we should do it in the format where it comes out as a budget item for the budget next month instead of sticking it in as an existing position prior to the budget. I don't think that's as transparent as we should be with it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with additional comments? Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Jen, for the follow-up and information.
Thank you.
Discussion of the possible next director's report, discussion and possible action on Board of Education meeting technology initial. That would be Mr. Collins and Mr. Greenleaf.
How you doing, everybody? You have a memo in your board packet about the interest in us purchasing equipment to do live streaming of board meetings moving forward. This is, since we've been doing these live streams, they've been very successful, reaching out to the community, giving the board more visibility out in the community, and it's really become the standard moving forward. What we want to do is make sure we really have high quality, what we need to do it high quality moving forward. It is the face of Ellington Public Schools, the face of the board out in the community. And we want to ensure that we have a really quality way to do this moving forward that is sustainable. So we originally started this out speccing for when we were doing live meetings back in the town hall to outfit the town hall boardroom space. Scott asked me to spec out what that would look like to get there. With the need for us to do social distance meetings, obviously in this pandemic, like the one we did in November where we spread out in the gymnasium, that kind of changed our focus a little bit. We still looked at the board meeting, the town hall, but we also started looking at some other options to do meetings like the one we did in November which was pretty successful to be able to spread out and stream that live in that venue. Right now, what we're doing is basically not using equipment that's really designed for that purpose. You know, grabbing a polycam, grabbing a laptop that is not really designed to do streaming, doesn't have all the specs you really want to do that to put out a good quality stream. The polycams are great for teaching in a classroom, not necessarily for board meetings where you have, you know, 10 different board members needing to speak and be heard, and audience members, etc. So for the time being, that kind of changed our focus. I started working with multiple vendors on this. Even as far back as a couple months ago, started with some vendors that I know, had some site visits, spec'd out a lot of different options moving forward, different cameras, different mics, different kind of setups, encoders that we can do to really put out a good product. Through this process, one thing came clear: it's an investment. You're not going to do this at a low cost and really have the high quality that we want to get. No matter which way you slice it, you're going to have to invest in the equipment in order to do this successfully. One company really rose to the top as we were doing this. It's called Legacy Sounds. It wasn't one of my originals that I started speccing this out with. I started using some other companies that I know of. Brandon Hubrins, who's the new vice principal at the high school, recommended this company, Legacy Sounds. He's used them. So I brought them in and started talking to them, and I was right off the bat really impressed with what they do. They're the ones that came out to the November board meeting to help us stream that November board meeting. They are really passionate with what they do. Their knowledge is through the roof. They're really dedicated to helping organizations like us do this in a sustainable way that they will help support. So they really rose to the top. And the pricing is, all of them, like I said, no matter which way you slice it, it's expensive. You got to invest in the equipment to do this. So through this, we did have in the memo the options to do the town hall boardroom. I'm actually recommending we go with the portable option that we mentioned. And the advantage of this is really it's multi-purpose for the district. So you can move this anywhere. We want to have a meeting in the gymnasium, high school gym, in the auditorium, in the cafeteria, in other schools in the district. We want to have events. We want to have meetings. We can move this system around and really do a nice high quality live stream anywhere in the district and really use it well. It really enhances our technology, what we have. We actually did an audit at the high school this year. And, the AV equipment that we use to do events and streaming is just, kind of in rough shape. It's a little scattered all over the place. It's hard to get things together. So we're really in need of an upgrade on the district in order to do this. And I think this really does that, and it sets us up for the future, well into the future for really doing this and doing it well, and having the flexibility to have these meetings anywhere. If you think about the Windermere building project that we did last year, we had multiple meetings in all kinds of different locations. And, we wouldn't be able to do that if we outfitted the town hall in a fixed way. We would be able to do that, get these out to the community and really get our message out and really have that transparency we need with a system like this. So it is a little higher cost, and Brian could get into the nitty-gritty of how we would pay for that. But I really think it's a worthwhile investment that would lead us well into the future in order to be able to do this at a high quality, in a high quality way. So Brian, if you have anything to
add two things there. You mentioned the district being able to utilize this as well, but we also see collaboration and kind of a shared service with the town as well. If they want to use it for their Board of Selectmen meetings, Board of Finance meetings, in order to enhance the quality for the people online who are streaming in on that. That's up to them if they want to do that, but it'll be available to them. So we're thinking about this, not just from the district, but from the whole town. The other thing is, we do have some funds that are available to pay for this. We have some one-time savings, or I believe they're going to be one-time savings in the choice grant this year because our tuition costs for the magnet schools is significantly less than it was last year. I'm attributing that right now to COVID. And so, once, we had budgeted a certain amount for that and we're not going to come close to it. And so, we can really afford either one of these. And as John said, the portable option just gives us much more flexibility.
Thank you, John and Brian, for the presentation. Jen, I believe you had your hand up first for questions. I'll open it up.
I do, thank you. As the communications chair, this is something that the communications committee really has wanted to do from day one. And so we definitely support it. One question I do have when it comes to the financials, I know, Brian, you said we do have some of the extra money out there. Would it be reasonable or feasible to go to the town and ask them to share some of their costs if we will be collaborating with them on the use of some of it?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally reasonable. We haven't yet broached it with them, but certainly happy to do that.
Thank you.
Dr. Young. Thank you, Jen. Dr. Young?
John, I just wanted to know if the portable or the fixed in the town hall would have the ability for one of the board members to be remote, whether that would be, Mr. Picaro phoning in or me coming in digitally, or even using the robot and hooking that up. Is that part of it, or is that just beyond what we're?
The answer to your question, we did talk about that, and with all the vendors, that was an important option to know, that we may have to have board members remoting into these meetings, especially given in the near term here. So that was definitely part of the discussions, and with the portable option, and we could definitely do that with the one in the boardroom. We may have to get a little creative in order to do that, but there's ways for us to do this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John, for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Okay. So monthly financial report, Mr. Greenleaf.
Here again. All right, so you'll see that we still have a healthy balance within our general fund budget for this year, including all encumbrances and pre-encumbrances that are in there. There are a couple items that we look to have to cover due to COVID. We're still identifying the places where we may be able to pull some of those extra monies from in order to cover that. And I'm happy to answer any questions on either of the reports that are in there. I'll also just quickly note that I know the audit from 1920 has been posted out there online. We have met with the town on that, both kind of on the details of the audit, but also on the process. And it was definitely a challenge for us this year, moving to a new audit firm while also implementing a new software program and going through the COVID transition into the new school year as well. So I want to thank publicly my team, Anita, Robin, Mary, and Julie, who really did a great job working with the town staff, working with the auditors. We also completed the audit 2 months ahead of the deadline, which is again a testament to my team, but also the town side, because if you can believe it, the 18-19 audit wrapped up in like June of this year, and we wrapped up the 19-20 audit in October. So really a lot of new things to do in a much shorter time frame. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions on Brian's financial update? Okay, thank you. Board liaison reports. Ayushman, any updates for us?
Nope.
Okay. Gary, any updates from Craig? Nothing. Okay. I'll open it up. Any other liaison reports?
Hey, Jen, it's Mike Picaro.
Yes.
Kate, on Thursday, January 12th and Thursday, January 14th, the CAVE webinar series is occurring. One, respectively, the 12th is on promoting civility and the next one is on relationships matter. And so those are coming up. And I will send out a link from CAVE. There's some great resources that are available, including to Scott, some resources from Yale where there's an online learning that on a rolling basis that the Dalio Foundation has paid for, entitled How the Preparation, oh, excuse me, that's not the one, excuse me, Social and Emotional Learning in Times of Uncertainty and Stress, Research-Based Strategies. It's for educators. So I think that's worth passing around, and maybe Mr. Henriksen and Dr. Young, if you want to take a look at it and see if it's appropriate to share through the superintendent to our educators and build it into their PD program. That's it. Thanks, Jen.
Oops. Thank you, Mike. Any other reports or liaison? Okay, we will move on to action items. Sorry?
Finance.
Sorry, Liz. Oh, beg your pardon, Liz. Sorry, I did not see your hand raised.
Well,
my apologies.
It's kind of an interesting report because Mike Picaro was nominated as vice chair of the Board of Finance, but he was not yet approved by the Board of Selectmen as a member of the Board of Finance. And also they did spend $126,000 for the town's costs related to a purchase of the farm, Oak Ridge Farm. There's 3 sections there, and they bought section 1 and section 3. About 51 acres that will permanently be farmland, and that's about all they did in that meeting.
Okay,
so
thank
we
you very
want
much.
more farmland.
More farmland.
We want more farmland. We're guaranteed some more farmland.
So can our high school students start farming those now that we have, all these agricultural courses being added?
Right?
Only in Rockville.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Liz. Okay, moving on to action items.
Jen, can I just point out a quick typo on those?
Certainly.
I'm going to take care of that if you're talking about the numbering.
Yes, I am, for the add action items.
Yeah.
Okay, take it away. Thank you.
All right, so I would like to move to add as action item number 9, the first read of revised policy 9321A, time, place, and notification of meetings.
Second.
Seconded by Chris. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I would like to move to add as action item number 10, first read of revised policy 6146A, graduation requirements.
Second.
Seconded by Chris. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained?
Aye.
Okay. Moving to action item number 1. Anyone?
Acceptance of the personnel retirement request of Keith Taucus, teacher of Ellington High School, effective June 30th, with regrets and best wishes.
Any second? Thank you, Marcia. Seconded by Marcia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained? Okay, motion passes. Number 2.
Jen, I move that the Board of Education accept with regret and best wishes the retirement request of Mary Katie Delcimino, teacher at our school, effective June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Seconded by Marcia. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Action item number 3.
Jen, this is Mike Young. I move that the Board of Education approve the academic course proposals for inclusion in the Ellington High School program of studies for 2021-2022, as recommended in the notes and discussion of the curriculum committee.
Second.
Ooh, who was that? That was a close one.
I said it first, I think, but I'm gonna write.
Okay, my dear. This seconded by Chris. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Action item number 4.
I move, I can't read this, that the Board of Education approve the Coordinator of Human Resources position with a projected start date as of April 2021, unless with available finances, the position starts as early as February 2021.
Jen, it's Mike Percar. I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, that was seconded by Mike. And any discussion?
If I may.
Go ahead, Liz.
I still feel that we need to wait until the budget comes out to vote on this as a part of the budget for the 2020-21 school year.
Additional comments?
And it's Mike. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think that this position is way overdue. I think that the position as it stands now is super unsustainable. I think to not create this position and to not create it as soon as possible is a disservice to the district as a whole. I think it could potentially create some disastrous situations the way it stands as is.
I agree with Chris.
So can I just ask you, you think it's going to make a big difference if doing it 1 month before the budget comes out?
I think you can, personally. I think that we're really lucky that nothing's happened so far. And I think this needs to get done as soon as possible. And you're just talking about a discussion when the budget comes out. So who knows how far that'll put it down the road.
Well,
and
it's either going to be in the budget or
overdue.
Jen, who's talking?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My apologies. Sorry, I had it muted. Gary had his hand up next. My apologies. Gary?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I'd like to see this get moving along. I think the administration understands we don't want it right away because of the budget and everything. But I think if we could get, it posted and things like that and started getting interviews, I think that'd help out quite a bit. Okay.
Thank you, Gary. Dr. Young, you had your hand raised as well.
Yes, thank you. I acknowledge Liz's point about the fact that this should be part of a larger discussion, and I think it will be, but the discussion she's referring to is the discussion of next year's budget, and I do believe that there is a COVID issue here with trying to keep hires moving forward with trying to get substitute teachers. And that is an issue that is going to require a bit more dynamic and rapid response. I think we've had a lot of these kinds of, shocking changes that would normally have been taken as part of our processes every year, Jen. But this is one where I think we're hearing the central office and the superintendent saying there will be a real advantage to getting this done sooner rather than waiting until the next budget cycle. So I would speak in favor of doing it now, even acknowledging Liz's genuine concerns that these decisions should routinely be made in a broader context.
Thank you. Mr. Picaro, you had your hand raised as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. And Dr. Young basically was saying similar things that I wanted to share, but essentially I want to commend Liz for focusing on the process, because the process is important, and it's unusual for us to do something outside of the budget cycle. But I also agree that this is a critical need, and I've said that before, to the board. So I just want to throw my hat in supporting the position now. If we do it as part of the budget cycle, technically the funding wouldn't be available until July 1st. We could start recruiting earlier, but there is a critical need right now for us to fill this position, and I think there's some risk and exposure if we don't. So all things considered, I support it, but I also, again, want to thank Liz for bringing that forward, focusing on the process, and making it a discussion item.
Thank you. Miriam, you had your hand raised as well.
I need to be clear. Are we voting now on posting it and filling it prior to July 1st? Or are we going to have an opportunity to find the money and have a vote on whether we want to fill it this year?
Yeah, I believe the language as written says that we can fill it earlier, but I think we would report out to the board in advance of, posting it for fill to show where the money is coming from in this fiscal year.
Okay. Miriam, does that answer your question? Any other discussion?
Jen, if I may, it's Mike.
Yes.
Again, knowing that I support this, and it looks like we have majority supporting it, but again, out of respect to the process, I heard Brian say maybe that let's just make it definitive. Let's vote on the position, and then maybe with a friendly amendment, when the funding is identified, have to bring that back to the board for approval. I mean, I think we all agree or the majority agrees to move forward on the position, but I don't know if that would satisfy more of the process concerns that Liz has brought forward. But just an idea. Again, we don't have to do it, but just to throw it out as an option.
Could you repeat that, Mike?
Brian, through the vice chair, Brian Greenleaf had said he would be would likely be reporting back to the board. Let's just make it definitive that it's required he reports back to the board where the funding is, and you could add that as part of the motion so that we're fully apprised of what's happening. And you can make it a requirement that we address where the funding is so that we have some say on it. But I'm just throwing it out as an option so that we can move this position forward in a way that's more in line with the process concerns you've raised, Liz, but still.
Yeah. So Mike, in the event that administration does want to fill it before the next budget cycle,
right?
Mr. Greenleaf would identify for the board where that funding is coming from and seek our approval.
Yes, sir.
Do we have to add that as an amendment tonight, right now?
Yeah, through the vice chair, we would end the motion. Yeah.
I think technically whoever proposed it would have to.
I amend my motion as presented. What they said.
Yeah, something like that.
There it is. That's on record.
Need another second?
Actually, no. I just the proposer takes that as a friendly amendment, and that's part of her motion. And you could withdraw your second, I guess, but, or whoever seconded it.
So do we need additional discussion on the amended?
Yeah, you can call the question as amended at this point, I think.
Any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Number 5, approval of the Board of Education meeting technology solution.
I move that the Board of Education approve the Ellington Board of Education meetings technology solution with a date to be determined.
Jen, if I could just interrupt for a moment, point of order. Liz was trying to, I believe, abstain, but she was muted, so I think we need to just make sure we acknowledge her abstention.
My apologies. Okay, yes. Thank you.
And I would rise to second Jen Mullins' motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Wait.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I'm like, yes, go ahead, Chris, sorry.
I was trying to get my microphone on. Anyway, do we make the determination now as to which solution? Because 2 were presented to us. There was the portable and there was the fixed at the town hall. Wouldn't it be easier just to make that decision and move on with our lives now?
Agreed. Thank you.
And so I think the portable is the way to go.
So how do we amend? Should we amend?
So I will amend that to make notion that we're recommending the portable.
And should the motion include that we are looking to see if the town wants to be included in our purchase? Should that be a part of the motion, or are we not going to do that?
We should reach out to them. I don't know if it needs to be a part of the motion or not.
I would just recommend that it's not part of the motion because we don't want to make a public motion putting the town on the spot. And we move forward with the project, and if we can work with the town for them to help support the funding, then we can do that and we can report that out to the board. But we don't want to commit them publicly when they're not really engaged yet.
Okay. Further discussion? So we are looking at the portable option. Miriam, yes? Did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay, so we'll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Number 6, approval of the Board of Education Legislative Platform 2021 as presented by the Communications Committee.
I move to approve the Ellington Board of Education Legislation Platform 2021 as presented to the Communications Committee.
Second, Jen.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Number 7, approval of the postponement of the Italy-Greece trip, spring 2021, as recommended by the Ellington High School Principal John Guidry.
Second.
No, someone's got to read the motion.
Sorry. Move to approve the postponement of the Italy-Greece trip, spring 2021, as recommended by Ellington High School Principal John Guidry.
Second.
Okay, seconded, I believe, by Miriam, although it was close second by Gary. Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstaining? Motion passes. Approval, sorry, was someone speaking? No, okay. Approval of the superintendent goals for 2020, 2021 as recommended by the superintendent.
And this is Mike Young. I move to approve the superintendent goals for 2020, 2021 as presented by Dr. Scott E. Nickel, Superintendent of Schools.
Second.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Me second.
Garrett, seconded by Gary. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. First read on the revised policy 9321A, time, place, and notification of meetings.
I move that upon the recommendation of the Policy Committee, the Board of Education hold a first vote to adopt the Ellington Public Schools revised bylaw 9321, time, place, and notification of meetings as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Liz. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Number 10, first read on revised policy 6146A, graduation requirements.
I move that upon the recommendation of the Policy Committee, the Board of Education hold a first vote to adopt the Ellington Public Schools revised policy 6146, graduation requirements as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Liz. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion passes. Excellent. Any old business or new business?
Mike?
Go ahead, Gary.
Mike Young, I just want to tell Mike Young, I was in the curriculum meeting on the phone. I just couldn't get through to you guys, but I listened to the curriculum meeting. So when you do your minutes, you can put me down as present, although I couldn't participate, okay?
Well, I'll consider it. I'll take it as a motion to the committee to see whether you were really there or not.
Okay. Any correspondence? Excuse me, any correspondence? Hearing none. Okay. Roundtable, anything else that anyone wants to bring forth to the group?
Be careful driving out there if anyone has to go out.
Yes. Liz, you have something. Yes, thank you, Mike.
Yes, it came to my attention today, and I did check in the newspaper that South Windsor will be doing distance learning until January 8th. I mean, it will start, I think, Monday like we are, but they're going to be continuing distance learning for that first week of school after vacation. And I'm just wondering if there's been any other schools that anybody else has heard about that are doing that. Scott, maybe, you know?
Yeah, I think there's other districts doing that and there's other districts not doing that. So, you know, West Hartford, Summers, other districts are planning on coming back on January 4th. But there are other districts that have already made a decision to have that week off. So I think it's a mixed bag. I think there's some reasonable theories either way. What I would state is that the State Department of Public Health and our local health district are not recommending making it blanket, don't come back until January 8th or January 19th or some of the dates that we've heard out there. So it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
Okay. I would, seeing no other items, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn at 7:41.
Second.
Seconded by, I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I did.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Have a good snow day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy
President's working on a
holidays.
distance,
Happy
so he can
holidays.
get the freaking snow
We're getting
day.
back Monday.
Don't we have?
Even
Oh,
though the
that's right. We have
superintendent
Monday.
said we needed it for our,
I'll wish
for our
additional
social
happy
work.
holidays on Monday. Good night, everybody.
Dr. Young, I
Stay
want
safe.
pictures of a snow angel or a snowman or something fun.
You got it.